Alright everybody, thanks for stopping by my channel. It's a nice sunny Sunday. It's about 60 degrees out here, so I decided to open up the shop doors and come out here and try to get a little work done. But the point of this video is I want to do a breakdown of my suspension on my car so far. I'll show you what I've done, tell you about the parts I use, give you rough prices, how I feel about them and all that sort of stuff. And also, I set it up the way I did so that I could expand on it and make it better as I buy other parts, as I do other mods, and you know, just continue to evolve the car. So, I got it setting up on jack stands on the rear axle, so weights on the suspension, and of course the blocks on the front. But what I've done here is I've lowered it about 1.5 inches all the way around. My tire gap is roughly 2 fingers. It's fairly even all the way around. It's not like a full tuck or anything like that, but it is considerably lower, and I definitely think it looks better. It also does handle quite a bit better. It's a little stiff, but it's not painful. It's not overly bumpy. It's not terrible. So what I've used here is I put H&R Super Sport lowering springs on it. H&R has, I believe, 4 different sets of lowering springs they offer. There's the Sport line, there's the Super Sport, which is the ones I used. Then there's like a Pro something, and then there's like a full race variant. And the biggest differences between them, they do have a little bit of difference in their lowering amount, but the main thing is the actual spring rates. If I remember correctly, these are, I want to say about 300 in the rear and about 700 up front, progressive, which is stiff but not painful, like I said. Here, let's climb under here and I'll show you. So those are the H&R Super Sports. I did upgrade to Koni Orange. I guess I just couldn't justify the double the price for the Koni Yellow. But one thing that I added in the rear that I think is really cool and I actually like a whole lot is these Maximum Motorsport adjustable lower control arms. So they're adjustable underneath the spring perch, so you can actually raise and lower the rear really easily. It's very, very simple actually, and I kind of like it because where the front set, I was able to come back here, tweak the rear, and get it just how I wanted it. And of course, if I have like a heavy load of stuff or something like that, if I'm doing a long trip with a lot of stuff in the car, I can raise it up a little bit so that I have a little bit more clearance. So I found that to be a cool detail of those. And they have poly bushings all the way around, so it really kind of gets rid of that rear end walk phenomenon that I'm sure any of you who have driven one of these cars in stock form, you slam on the gas, you try to take off hard, and it feels like the rear end wants to do a 180 instead of actually hook and go. Now it really does hook really well. Alright, so a little bit more on the rear. Let's see if I can get a good angle on it for you. What I used back here is these BMR adjustable uppers. So I used adjustable uppers because lowering the car is going to give a little bit of change to the pinion angle. So I used the adjustable uppers so I could actually get that pinion angle back right, and so I could get the tracking of the rear axle, you know, distance between front and rear wheel, left and right, the same, and even everything out. Because just off basic measurements before I did this, it was a little uneven. And it seems these cars just kind of come that way. If you are doing the upper control arms as well, I know a lot of people tend to go with more of a stock replacement, which seems fine, but I don't know, I just thought being able to adjust the pinion angle and get everything set right made more sense. I will say doing those upper bushings on the rear differential was probably one of the worst jobs that I've had to do on this car so far. I absolutely hated it. They're pressed in, they're extremely difficult to get out of there, but with an air hammer, the press tool from Maximum Motorsports, everything did end up coming out all right. Wasn't the worst thing, but it did suck. Okay, so for the front, as you can see, I have the Maximum Motorsports caster camber plates up there, which were really helpful. When I first got the car, it actually had a bit of a vibration. I balanced the tires and everything, and the vibration was still there even before I lowered it, mostly above like 60 or 70 miles an hour. Tried to do an alignment before I lowered it, and doing that, I ended up realizing that I didn't have enough positive caster. It was only set about 1.5 on positive caster, and I didn't want to notch out the strut towers to be able to actually get an adjustment out of it. So now that I've lowered it, got everything set, I can actually get a proper adjustment out of the alignment, and doing that made a huge difference. I don't have that same vibration anymore. It's actually completely gone. 80, 90 miles an hour, this car drives beautifully, completely smooth. So those were a huge upgrade, and of course part of that vibration could have been like worn out shocks and stuff like that contributing to it, but I do think being able to get that proper alignment in there really made a difference. So what I've used in the front, very similar to what I used in the rear. H&R Super Sports, relatively stiff but not terrible, and Koni Orange. These Koni Orange are good, man. They're, considering how stiff these springs are, these really do a great job. It is not a harsh ride at all. It's bumpy, you dodge the potholes, you definitely don't want to hit anything too hard, but it came out really good. I'm really happy with how it rides, I'm really happy with how it looks, and I'm set up to do whatever I want in the future. Alright, so what I want to do, obviously if you've watched any of my videos so far, I have this engine over here. Eventually I'm going to do an engine swap and build this thing to be a little bit more of an animal than the stock format that's already in there. Nothing too crazy, but you know, fun street car. So with that, I definitely am going to do some upgrades because I'll have the engine out. My thoughts are I will likely do a tubular K-member and tubular lower control arms on the front. The rear I probably really won't make much difference to, but as far as the front suspension goes, with the components that I already have, I'm set up to be able to use upgraded components for the rest of the suspension when that time comes. I have not gotten around to it yet, but one of my soon plans, I actually have already ordered them, is I will do subframe connectors. Like I said, I have not done them yet. They are on order, but I was gonna run the Maximum Motorsports ones just to stick with the deal of what I already got going on, because most of the components I bought have been from them. And actually, scratch what I said about not wanting to change anything in the rear. There is one upgrade I'd like to make to the rear, and that is the Maximum Motorsports Panhard bar. I'm sure you've seen that thing before. Lots of people swear by it, just to really tighten up the rear end. And once I start making a little bit more power out of this car, I think that'll make a big difference. Kitty likes hanging out with me in the shop. Alright, so that's a quick breakdown of my setup on the suspension on the car so far. Like I said, there's a lot of room to upgrade it, and I do have plans to do more stuff in the future, but that time will come. This car's a driver. I'm not going to tear the whole thing apart, let it sit for 2 years so I can do everything slowly. I'm going to do it as I go, and you know, in between, still drive the car and enjoy it. But so far, just for reference sake, I've spent about $1,200 on the suspension stuff. Struts, springs, upper and lower rear control arms, caster camber plates, a handful of poly bushings, things like that, and plus some miscellaneous things for tools and stuff like that that I needed to do the job. Well worth it, in my opinion. Everything I've done so far I really enjoy. Like I said, there's more to come on that. Let me know your opinions on my suspension setup and how you've set yours up. Give me some ideas in case there's some product or some information that I don't know about that'll make it even better. All right, thanks for watching, guys.